Hi, and in this video I'm going to be giving you the complete walkthrough for the setup menus on the TX-NR676. So first up, we actually have the TV out and on-screen display settings in the in and output assignment options. Now first up in the actual TV out menu is your main selection on the HDMI out, which you can switch between main or sub. Then we have the usual on-screen display language, where you can superimpose the on-screen display. There's a new mini player for when you're using the network facilities, and the screensaver, but the main addition is the Dolby Vision. Now this is a completely new way to look at video, and what I'm going to do now is hand over to Dolby and let them explain it to you.
Dolby Vision is an advanced HDR technology that delivers enhanced brightness, color, contrast, detail, and dimensionality to your displays. Bringing the visual technology from Dolby Cinema, one of the world's most advanced movie experiences, straight into your home. It doesn't matter how many pixels you have, or what your frame rate is. Dolby Vision empowers every pixel with a much broader range of color and brightness, and makes every frame better by adjusting dynamically to the performance of your display, optimizing the image scene by scene. Capable of showing an unheard of brightness of up to 10,000 nits, your experience will only improve as display technologies advance. From creators to distributors, Dolby Vision HDR technology has extensive support in Hollywood, gaming studios, and beyond, making the real hero of the Dolby Vision experience your entertainment. You will have more choices of what to watch, and where and how to watch it. And since Dolby Vision preserves and delivers much more of the color and light information from the original footage, you can now get as close as possible to the director's intent. Dolby Vision, wider range of color and brightness, more entertainment choices optimized for your display. The only HDR with true cinema technology.
As you can see on the screen, there's actually a large support for multiple languages that you can actually have the menu systems and the on-screen display in. The HDMI Input section is quite self-explanatory. This is where you can assign the physical HDMI connection on the back of the AVR to a label that you would select on the remote or the front of the AVR. But please be aware that only one physical HDMI socket can be assigned to one label at a time. Now this section covers all of the analog video inputs. So if you have a component video input or a composite video input, you can actually assign it here and it will be outputted via the HDMI. It will not be upscaled, it will just be converted to a digital signal and outputted via the main or the sub HDMI. The digital input works the same way. You can actually select any of the coaxial or optical inputs and actually assign them to a physical label button on the front. The same is true of the analog input as well. You can assign the physical connection on the back to the label button on the front. Now we're actually on the speaker configuration page. What I'm going to do is allow you to listen to some music while I high speed run through all of the speaker configurations that the TX-NR676 actually has. And the crossover section allows you to select and individually set the crossover points of each speaker within the system. It's very important that you actually set the crossover correctly because it allows the 676 to correctly send the low frequency effect and the low frequency of the relevant channels to the correct speakers, so you can get maximum dynamic range and maximum separation across all of the channels. The distance settings are also vitally important to the correct setup of your whole system. The controller/processor needs to know the distance from each speaker to the seat position, and you can set this in feet or meters, and it's done easily either through the auto calibration setup mic or you can do it manually. It's also the same for the level calibration. You can do this automatically within the initial setup using the calibration mic, or alternatively, if you've got a calibrated SPL meter, you can go in and actually set the individual volumes of each speaker yourself. Now, the Equalizer Settings menu gives you 3 presets that you can manually adjust, whether you want to use this as the overall EQing for all of the channels, or whether you want to just use this to be able to tweak the sound depending whether you're listening to music or listening to a movie. It just gives you that much more control over the sound within the room. You get to use 9 out of the 15 bands, and the front selection does include both the left and the right at the same time. So when you're measuring it, if you're using an RTA, you do actually have to do both channels together as an average. And that actually goes for the surround channels and the height effects channels. They're all in matched pairs. So the surround is surround left and right, surround back both includes the left and right paired as well. And then, as I've mentioned before, you can actually save these into 3 separate presets. And that neatly moves us on to the audio adjust menu. And first up is how we deal with mono multiplex signals. What we can do is select the inputted channel, as you can see that I'm doing here, and then you can select how you want that mono signal to be outputted. Generally, a mono signal is outputted through the center channel, or alternatively, you can set it to output both on the left and the right for a pseudo stereo effect. In the Dolby options, we have the loudness management. This just gives you better surround and bass at lower volumes. The DTS setting is limited as well. We have the option for DTS Auto Surround, which enables or disables the automatic setup of getting the best DTS processing. Now, within the LFE level, you can actually make some adjustments to the level of the LFE. Then within the main volume options, preset the mute level, whether you want it absolutely silent when you press mute or whether you want the volume reduced significantly. It just adds more flexibility. Then we also have a maximum volume, which you can be turned on and preset to a specific state, so that way you know your system is absolutely safe and it cannot and will not go beyond that maximum volume unless you come back into this menu and actually adjust it. We also have a power on option. This allows you to set the turn on volume on the controller. And then lastly on the page, we actually have a headphone level, and this allows you to adjust an offset in relation to the actual volume dial. Now, the source option is actually relative to each individual input on the OVR. Now, the IntelliVolume is there to allow you to balance up the input volume of different sources. So let's say we had a CD player on one input and you had a tape deck on another, and if you played the same album, one on a CD, one on a tape, they would actually be different volumes without you touching the volume control. And what the IntelliVolume allows you to do is to increase or decrease that specific input so you can balance up all of your sources. So as you select tape deck or the CD or the tuner, they're all balanced. Now, the video select is sort of specific to audio only sources, so we're actually on the net input because it tells us it's in the top right corner. But what it gives us the option to do is to actually view video from the last video source we were on. So let's say you've got Skybox on the streamer box input and you go from your Skybox directly to the net input, it will still display the video of the last input that you're on. And now we're on to the hardware side of things, and first up will be the HDMI settings. Here is where we can turn the CEC on and off. We've also got flexibility to have it as fully automated, as manual as you want. Got flexibility on HDMI pass-through and the audio return channel. Again, we can automate this by having everything turned on, or alternatively we can switch everything off and have it as a very manual system. Flexibility is directly related to the TV or projector it's being plugged into. As you would expect, the networking features are quite extensive. Now, as we're running here, it's on wired, but I've just opened up the actual Wi-Fi wireless part of it to actually show you what we can do. There's an automated system where it will go off and actually find the networks for you, or alternatively you can manually put in the SSID and password and it will actually jump onto the specific network you require. You can also enable or disable the DHCP, that way you can set the AVR up to fit into your network exactly the way you want it to do. You can also change the name of the AVR in the friendly name section, and then below that we actually have the AirPlay password. Now you'll need to set this up before you can activate AirPlay, but I have done a whole video on just AirPlay itself and how to use it. And when that's all set up, you can actually use the feature right at the bottom and actually check to make sure the whole network is running the way you want it to. The Bluetooth menu is actually just really simple. You don't have to touch any part of it at all because it's all in auto mode. The only thing you might want to do is check the status and change the pairing information and clear it. That's about it. Within the power management, we've got an auto standby, a sleep timer, a network standby, which means you can actually still provide commands via the app or an IP-based control system, and you can actually wake the AVR up via Bluetooth as streaming music. There are some basic Zone 2 functions, but they're all important nevertheless. The first will be the maximum volume. This can be preset and only overridden if you go back into this menu. And then the second one would be the power on volume. So you can select whether it was the last volume that you played at, or alternatively you can set it to a specific point. It's going to come on at the same volume every single time, which personally, that's what I recommend doing. And then we have remote play. This is sort of reasonably self-explanatory. You can set it to auto mode and it will actually come on. It's on the specific zone and auto play when you request it off the remote control or the app. And then finally we're in the miscellaneous menu. The first option allows you to change the tuner steps, either 9 or 10 kilohertz. Remote ID allows you to run multiple AVRs in the same room without all the commands getting mixed up between each unit. A few options within the firmware update. You can enable the notice to tell you when there's an update, or alternatively you can use the network or USB update procedure. The initial setup option is what you would have seen when you first unpack the unit, and you can go through every single option and set it up as if it had just come straight from the box. And then lastly we actually have the lock. This doesn't stop anyone from going into the menu and unlocking it and changing any system settings, but what it does, it stops accidental changes. Well, I hope you've enjoyed taking an in-depth view of all of the menus and the on-screen setup display of the TX-NR676. If you did like it, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye bye.